Hey, Broker Nation, Scott Peckford here. This is I Love Mortgage Brokering Live, episode 4. And on this episode, I have Steve Dyment and Monica Parkin, and we're talking about goal setting. And both of them have had very good success with setting goals. Both of them had slightly different strategies, but in the end, they are actually incredibly effective. So I'm excited to have them on the show. Just so you know, so this is a new format for us. Live is actually a lot more challenging than I realized going into this. You know, when we recorded the shows in the past, we could edit them and cut them, and there's so many more moving parts. And so just bear with us. We will get this figured out. We are not giving up on this strategy and on this technique. It's just going to take some time. And so we really appreciate you for checking this out, and check out this episode with Monica and with Steve. I think you're totally going to dig it. All right, so we're going to get started here in a minute. We're just going to get our guests on. So today's show is about how to set goals. And so I have 2 guests that have had really good success with setting goals. And it's something that I've been doing personally, not for long enough, certainly. One of my challenges has always been easily distracted. And so it's amazing how setting consistent goals and writing them down has made such a difference for me. And so I thought, it'd be cool to share with you guys some of the strategies that we've used, but also strategies of people that are smarter than me that are using. And so we have Monica Parkin and my buddy Steve Dyment coming on here in a minute. We just got to get them live and mic'd up. So once that happens, we'll get rolling. And as you can probably see, our format for the show has changed a bit. We keep trying to up the live level, like how we can do this. And so if you guys have any feedback for us, we'd love to hear it from you. The whole purpose is for us to share and to learn. And this new format is just totally different. And it's stressful because it's live, and we can, when we recorded the podcast, they were never live. So if we screwed something up, you wouldn't even know. We just cut it out. Now with the live thing, the level of it's just like DEFCON 5 here sometimes. And so, but we're excited about that. And I owe you a quarter. Okay, so cool. I'm going to wait for my guests to show up.
Hi, Scott.
Tell the story, Scott.
Hey, Monica, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Great. So, hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I wasn't stressed out till you started talking about how stressful it is.
Oh, well, yeah. Guys here, because they got all this. If I showed you the room, I should probably do a video and do like a walk around and show you all the stuff that they have to try to make this work. You'd be like, holy crap. And when it's just increased the level of complexity, which creates potentials for, problems. So
it looks awesome. You look like a news anchor sitting there. So
yeah, news anchor, fake news. It's just fake news right now.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm gonna do this in 2 parts. I'm gonna have you on first as a guest. So it's like a double header, guest to guest, and I'm gonna talk to you about. I want to find out about you and about how you set goals and some of the successes you've had, and then I'm gonna talk to Steve Dyment, and then we're just gonna maybe the 3 of us can share a little bit about a discussion, and then we'll also take any questions from the audience. And so anybody in the audience, if you want a chance to win a I Love Mortgage Brokering mug, you can do that, but you have to ask a question. So you have to interact with us. And we will, we'll select one person that will get a mug. So if that's something you want to get, and you can't get them in stores. So, okay, Monica. Just one sec. We need to. You don't have his email? No. Yeah, we got to call Steve on the other line. Just one sec, though. Okay. I need my questions though. So, but why don't you introduce yourself, Monica, and just tell us about how long you've been in the mortgage business, and then we'll roll into this topic.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, Scott, I am from Courtenay. I'm with Invest West Coast Mortgages over here in Courtenay. I am just coming up to about 1.5 years in the business. I wrote my exam May 2 years ago, started about June, and I'm just loving every minute of it. So having a great time.
And what were you doing before you got into the mortgage business?
Well, 2000 to 2008, I was with the federal government, and then I left there to start my own business as a canine reproduction, so in veterinary medicine, which is completely different from mortgages, but it's another relationship business, right? So
my dog is currently, and we have 3 kids, and it's created some interesting discussions about the dog that's pregnant. And so anyway, canine reproduction specialty.
I bet. Yeah.
That's
So very differing fields, but yeah, they're all relationship fields, right? So it's all about building relationships. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. And then, so 1.5 years. And so I wanted to get you on the show because you and I were talking, and we were just talking about goal setting, and you had shared with me some of the successes you've had and how you've been doing it. So I just wanted you to tell me about that. So how do you currently set goals?
Yeah. So what I started doing, what I found is, I was always told to write goals in a journal, write them in a book. And we were talking a little bit about, we're both a little bit ADD sort of in a way, right? I have a hard time sticking with the same thing. So what I found is I've got a big whiteboard in my room, and I just write stuff down on that board, little stuff, big stuff, whatever. And then every day when I walk by it, I see it. And then when I've completed a goal, I circle it, put some stars, some happy faces, whatever. I pop a picture of it and I store it in my album. So then when something comes up that I'm nervous about, I'm lacking confidence, or something I just worried about, I just go back and I flip through all those things I completed, and just all my worry drains away. I'm like, man, that worked out. This is like nothing. This is a little speed bump. All that other stuff worked out. So for me, just to be able to snap a picture and file it away and just write on my board as I'm walking by, I just found that an easier thing for me to do than to sort of open a journal every night and look through it and write in it. So.
Right. I love that idea. I heard a story about Bill Gates. He does something similar. So he had a book, and in his book, like a journal, he would write down all these successes he had. And so when he was going into a meeting where he felt really nervous, he's thinking, is this going to go well? And he's Bill freaking Gates. To remind him of the successes he's had, he'd read through these things and go, oh, we did this and we did this. You know what? I can do this too. And I love that idea of basically a memoir of past successes to keep you, because let's be honest, there's times you're going to be afraid, like you're going to be, is this going to work? And so getting that, having the looking back and going, oh, those things worked out. And I think that's genius. So good for you.
It totally changes your perspective once you have that in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great concept. And so then have you ever set any goals that you thought were unrealistic?
Yeah, I was looking, because you sent me some questions ahead of time, and how do you know if a goals are unrealistic? And, I was thinking about that. And back when I was working for D&D in 2000, everyone's goal then was to get in 20 years and get your pension, right? And I think what I decided is goals that are unrealistic are goals that don't fit your passion. And that didn't fit me. So that's one goal I never achieved because it didn't resonate with me, right? Like I have this entrepreneur brain, and I don't want to go and work 9 to 5. And so the only goals that I've never that haven't worked for me that I thought were realistic are goals that didn't fit with my personality. So I think if it's something you're passionate about, it's something you want to do, the sky's the limit. There's no goal you can't achieve. But setting a goal that doesn't resonate with you, that's not your passion, is a hard thing to do. So I end up leaving the public service to be self-employed, and it's the best thing I ever did. But for me to set a goal to stay there for 20 years was not a good goal for me. So
that was my dad. He was D&D for 20 years and he left. But to each their own, right? But you're right. If you don't, what's the why? This is my goal, but why do I want it? Why does this matter? And there's times when I look back at the why to keep myself going.
Exactly. Yeah. It's wanting it, I guess, and things that you can control, right? It'd be lovely for me to have the goal of world peace, but that's not something that's physically in my control. So I choose goals that I have some control over. So
that's true. That's like, I could set a goal. I want to be 6 feet tall, but it ain't going to happen anymore.
It's right. So
procedure that I'm unaware of that could, all of a sudden I'm 6 feet tall, which would be rad. So can you share an example of a goal that you had achieved that went quicker than you expected?
Yeah. When I actually first started in this business, one of the things that I was really afraid of is parents, right? So parents coming in and trying to control the whole mortgage process. So I had this client, and he said we couldn't get him to do it alone. We had to do it with a co-signer. So mom and dad came in, and it was like winter is coming, right? Like it was just no response, no nothing. Everything was negative. The next day it was like, I don't understand why I went to a mortgage broker. I've been going to my bank for 30 years. We could just walk in there and get a mortgage. We don't have to go through all these hoops, blah, blah, blah. So I went home and I wrote it on my board. I'm like, these parents are going to love me. And I wrote happy faces and smiles. And I looked at that every day. And instead of being afraid of talking to them, which is what I would normally do, and just talk to the son and let him filter it down. Everything that came up, and a lot of stuff came up. It was a hard file, and every day there was a new challenge. So I talked to them, and I talked to him, and I made a point of talking to mom, even though I was terrified to do that. And it finally closed. And a month later, mom phoned me, and she said, "Do you mind if I buy you lunch today? Could we go out for lunch?" And I was like, "Oh my God, seriously?" And she was like, "You know what? I was really worried about this process, but I had no idea what a mortgage broker did. And you seem so knowledgeable and you got so much information. I've just got some more questions. My daughter's thinking about buying. I wonder if we could just sit down and you could run through them with me." And like, that was like the best thing ever. And I thought that would take me years to get through that goal. And it was like, bam, a month later. And I was like, it happened. Wow. So
I find that this is something I learned from Bernadette Laxamana. She says you basically change the story you tell yourself, which changes the way you feel, which changes the way you act, which changes your result, which is what you did. You changed the story from I'm going to, I don't really want to, these parents are stressing me out, to these parents are going to love me, which then the way you felt changed, which changed the way you acted, which changed your results. So I think that's fantastic. And that's something I try to do all the time when there's something that's like, this is a bad story. I'm telling myself, what's a better story? And then try to reorient my thinking. So good for you. And I found too the same thing. If you can meet with the parents and win them over, I'm like, bring the parents as much as possible.
Yeah.
You want them, they're decision makers. And if you don't get their input, it could affect you, right?
Yeah. And I love talking to parents now. Like, I used to be terrified, and now, yeah, same thing. Give your dad my number, bring him in. Like, I actually look forward to it. So it's been a 350, 365 shift in my
360.
350. It was a three, yeah.
Because the 360 means you just did this, like right back where you started. I'm just messing.
My kid's gonna laugh if they hear this. Yeah. Yeah.
I did a 360, Mom. It's like,
I got math kids. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so when you set goals, do you share them with others? Because there's kind of two trains of thought. Some people say you should set goals and share them to be more likely to have them achieved, and other people are saying no, you shouldn't. So what's your take on that?
Some I do and some I don't. If I feel like it's a goal someone's going to squash, like when I was working in the public service and I said I want to leave early, everyone was like, "You're an idiot. It's 2008. The economy is in collapse. Like, why would you do that?" And at that point I was like, okay, I'm not sharing this goal anymore. But little goals like, I want to spend more time with my family, whatever those things are, I'll put them right out in a public space, and, the kids will doodle on it. They'll add happy faces. So goals that we can all share in, I share with everybody. Goals that I think someone might want to squash a little bit, I'll keep those to myself until they've happened. So.
Right. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Because I've heard some studies say that there's something psychological that happens if you share a goal. Some people say that you're more likely to actually follow through, and other people say if you share a goal that you get the same psychological benefit as if you'd already achieved it. So then you don't actually go achieve it. So I kind of do the same. I do half and half. Some of my goals I'm going to share. Some of them I'm just keep to myself, and I just write them down myself.
Yeah. Totally very personal sort of thing.
And then how often do you review goals? So if you have got goals that you write down, how often are you looking at them?
Every day. I walk past them every day. And that's why I went to using a board instead of using a book, because in a book I would forget to open it. With a board, it's like right in my bedroom every morning when I'm getting up and getting organized. I look at it every single day when I walk by, and I add stuff to it every day. And sometimes it's just a really simple thing. Like, I just want to get this file 100% broker complete today. And that goal might be done by the end of the day, but it's kind of like when you go to the grocery store. If you bring a grocery list with you, you'll pick up all the stuff on your list, right? For me, writing goals down is kind of like going grocery shopping. If I leave my list at home and I didn't make a list, I'm going to forget everything. If I've got a list, then when that opportunity comes up, my brain remembers it. And I might see an opportunity and walk by it, but if it's on my list, then it kind of tweaks my brain to grab it and pay attention to it.
I totally agree. I have a mortgage friend who set a goal for himself to make $700,000 in a year, which is a big goal for him. That's a crazy goal anyway. And he had it written on his mirror and all these places. And his wife was like, this seems kind of weird. People come in the house but then when his income started going up, she's like, that's okay. You can leave that goal up on the mirror. It seems to be working. So
keep writing. Yeah.
Let's put an 8 there. Maybe we can make it 8 instead of 7. So I think that there is something about keeping them front of mind so that when the opportunities come up and you'll actually see them for opportunities instead of just maybe distraction or noise, right?
Totally.
That's really good. Okay. So, and well, can you share a goal right now that you have that one of your goals that's shareable? Can you share one with us? Because we'd love to hear it.
I'm working on it right now. So beginning of the year, October, I guess you asked me if maybe I wanted to come and do a podcast, and I kind of freaked out and had a little panic attack, like, oh my goodness, I can't do that. So you said, put it on your board, make it a goal. So I did. And, a couple of weeks later, this Toastmaster ad comes up that's been coming up every year for years, and I've always ignored it. And this time, because it was on my board, I went, oh, Toastmasters, I want to start doing some speaking. And so I signed up for that. And so here right now, I guess I'm working on that goal, and it's something I want to continue to work on through the year and just being more involved in my industry. And
how's it gone at Toastmasters?
It went awesome. I won an award 2 weeks in a row for best speaker. I'm just totally stoked. It's so much fun.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome that you set that goal. And then what advice do you give to someone who's like, hey, all right, you know what? Because there's stats on goal setting, and I should have shared this at the beginning, but there's this Harvard study done, and they had interviewed the Harvard graduates, and they said, how many of you have goals? And getting into Harvard, by the way, like 6 out of 100 people who apply get in. So it's a very small number of people. And so these are pretty motivated people, but only, I think it was 80, it was 13%, it was 84% of people didn't have any goal set. And then 3% had written goals, and the other 13% had goals, but they're in their head. And then fast forward 10 years later, they met up with those folks and they said, how are things going? And the people who had the goals in their head, their income on average, they checked a bunch of different categories, but their income was twice as high as the people who had no goals. And the people who had written goals, the 3%, their income was up to 10 times higher. So not to say that it just shows the focus and your intention. If you're that dialed in and focused, I think it makes a big difference. And so, what would your advice be for somebody who wants to be better at setting goals?
I'd start with little things. Like, just start with little goals. Don't set a goal that I'm going to do 250 million a year. Set a goal that I'm going to develop one good relationship with one lender, and I'm going to really work on making that a great relationship. And then, when that's working, then move up to the next one and the next one. And then maybe I'm going to double my volume this year, whatever it is, or I'm going to spend more time with my kids, or I'm going to get up half an hour earlier, whatever it is. But start with a little goal, put it where you can see it, do it every day. And then it's not so much even the setting the goal, it's coming back and realizing when it's done, like paying attention when you actually did it, because anyone can set a goal. It's paying attention when you've actually achieved that goal, and taking some time to notice it so that you build your confidence level and you want to do it again, because you kind of get a little high off of it and you want to go do it again.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Actually, I think it's important to celebrate, right? You've got to celebrate those wins. And I have a tendency to, I don't even look, I just move the goalpost. I hit the goal, and then I'm like, what's next? And then you have to stop and go, okay, this was pretty awesome, and let's celebrate. But because I always have this fear that if I celebrate, I'll stay there too long, and then I'll be like, and start going backwards. But I think you do need a small celebration and then move on to the next, reset the goalpost.
Yeah, I think it builds momentum when you celebrate. Then you're just more psyched up and you just want to do something bigger and better, right? So,
I remember when I was a kid and we played hockey, and we had a really good hockey. My dad was the coach. So this is a funny story. And so my dad was he was our coach, and I was the goalie for our team, and we dominated our whole league that year. And so we had one game left to win the finals. And it was against this team that we had never lost to. Like, we crushed them every time we played. And so my dad, based on, I don't know, his thinking was, okay, we're going to have a celebration party, but he gave us the party before the game. So we had a big pizza party. Awesome. We literally celebrated the win before. We got destroyed in that game and we lost. And it was so ever since then, it's you do not celebrate before the game is won, because we all went out there and we were so confident that we were going to win. We were not skating. They came and they chewed us up. And I was like, oh my gosh. So to this day, I still rib them. But I'm like, what were you thinking?
You counted your chickens before they hatched. Yeah.
You thinking, man, that's crazy that you put that, you gave us the pizza party before we even won. I guess it was just better for his schedule or something. But anyway, that's
awesome. That's funny. That's a great story.
Okay, cool. I'm going to get Stevie D. I'm going to put you on pause.
Cool. I'm going to sit here and enjoy that show.
Stevie D, can you turn on your video camera? Did you do your hair, Steve?
I might have.
I can't see your video, man.
I can see you. Can you see me?
No.
All right. Man, next I should attend a webinar you do on how to use technology properly.
If you scroll down to the bottom, there's a little camera. You probably clicked turn off the camera. You need to click it back on again. So just scroll down on the Zoom thing.
It says that I can't start the video because the host has stopped it.
Scott.
You just don't want to see me. You're worried about this hair, buddy.
Okay. Well, we'll start talking, and then we'll
Okay, sounds good.
You guys will figure it out. Yeah. Plus, then people can still get me instead of you. I'm just kidding. Okay, so
You want me to shut it down while we're talking and boot it back up? I think that's probably a good idea.
No, I don't think so. It'll be fine. We'll just they'll figure it out or they won't. You're good. You're good at talking.
Okay.
I want to talk to you about goal setting, and I've known you for many years, and I know you're very focused, and so tell me about how you set goals, and because I'm gonna just go give her, Steve.
For sure, buddy. So my launch off point was about 12 and a half years ago. I moved to Kelowna, and I moved there kind of under unusual circumstances. It was kind of a lull or a down point in my life, and I remember reading 3 books that had a massive, massive impact on me. So one was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. All of us have either read it or heard of it. Another one was Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power, which is a great book and super thick. And the other was by Brian Tracy. It was just called Goals. And that was definitely my launch pad. It came at a time in my life where I really needed something because what I was doing wasn't working. And I got the book and read probably halfway through and actually bought the CDs back when people actually did that. And I put those CDs in my beat up Volkswagen for probably 6 months straight. So Brian Tracy has a CD that's like a 2-sider or 2-set, and I bet I listened to it 20 or 30 or 40 times over. So that stuff kind of got ingrained in me. So that was my starting point on my launch pad, with really realizing the power of what intelligently set, regularly rehearsed, compelling goals could be.
Okay, so walk me through how did that start out? So what did you start doing after listening to Brian Tracy 40 times? What would that look like?
For sure. So after I read that, I realized he was really big on take a fresh sheet of paper, set out your goals, and just write out, he's very self-help, but write out if your life was exactly how you'd want it to be in every area of your life. So health, relationships, marriage, family, finances, career, what would that look like? And so we write out a big scribbled paragraph. And then eventually he says, turn it into sentences and make sure every sentence is in the positive, personal, present tense. So every sentence, every goal that you write should start with the word I followed by a verb. So it might be I weigh, I earn, I achieve, I own, I drive, I learn. And so I started doing that. And now I would say, I'll launch forward for a sec. One thing that he suggested doing your goals like that. And so I'd write them out and then I'd launch forward. And he said, unlike other coaches I heard, write them out every single day without reflecting on the old list. So I started doing that too. I would write out my goals without checking on yesterday's list. And what it became is it sort of ingrained itself into my being. Jim Rohn says goals are like magnets. They pull you towards them. And we've all heard those studies that say you are like the top 5 people in your life because effortlessly and without even realizing it, you will sort of become like them. And I found that when I wrote out my goals and they kind of ingrained themselves deep inside me, it didn't take a lot of extra effort to be thinking about them, to be attuned about them, to spend some time. So to this day, and at that point, I would write out my goals every single morning in a tiny little journal. It took me all of about 60 seconds. I've added something to it now, but that's what I've done with 80-90% success for about the last 10 years. So it doesn't even take me more than maybe 2 minutes.
Okay, so and do you still do that today, or what? Because that's something I learned and I started writing down my goals. I found my top 10, and it was a Brian Tracy thing, and I would rewrite them every day and not look at the previous day's goals. And it's interesting. Some days I'm like, I can't remember what my goals are, and so it's like, was it really my goal, or was it just something I thought should be my goal? So, but once you do them enough, now I can wake me up in the middle of the night and I could tell you my 10 goals. But when I first started, I would constantly be like, oh, what was that goal again? And so share with me some examples of things that you set that you are surprised that you actually were able to hit.
Sure. I think that for a while in our mortgage career, so I was doing this I've been doing it 7.5 years, and I was doing it for maybe 3 or 4 years with a reasonable amount of success, but without the success I wanted. And one thing I realized that I definitely do now is, on top of writing out those 10 to 12 goals, I will include a micro action step with each one. So if one of my goals, let's say one of my goals was to lose 15, 17 pounds.
What do you mean? Okay. You're going to dumb that down for me. Dumb it down for me.
For sure. So let's say someone writes a goal to achieve 50 million. They want to achieve 50 million. They want to do 150 deals, whatever it is. That's a great goal, but it's extremely long range. And sometimes it doesn't translate to motivation today when it's 8:15 and you're starting your day and you're wondering how you're going to get through it and if you're going to do what you need to do. So what I remember reading somewhere, it might have been Jim Rohn or John Assaraf or something, but most goals require a few steps, but almost no goal has 365 steps. So if you break it down to one small daily activity where you can check off something that you did every day towards that goal, it makes a huge difference. So it might be something, and it could be 30 seconds, but it might be something as small as you really need to fix that small thing on your website, or you really need to improve a script, or you really need to start automating your referral campaign when someone refers you. That one thing might take 1 to 5 minutes, but it's basically eating the elephant one bite at a time. So that's going to help you achieve that goal. So when I write down, I normally do about 12 goals, but 4 or 5 are going to be within the next 1 month.
How come you got to do 12? I'm going to do 13 tomorrow. It's like, you're going down, brother. I'm doing 13.
14 it is. 14 it is.
Maybe I'm not even...
Yeah, sorry about that. The action steps was the missing piece when I realized I had stalled out. I was still writing out my goals, but they were 1, 2, and 5 years down the road, and it wasn't compelling me. And when I got back to, maybe for your action steps, you say, I'm going to lose 15 pounds. And a 60-second action step is, my office was on the 10th floor. I'm going to take the stairs today. It's nothing life-changing, but it just creates a little bit of momentum for it. Or it's going to be, I need to have a better relationship with my spouse. So I'm going to set an alarm.
Right, Steve?
I rest a few times. But maybe it's to text your spouse halfway through the day. But the micro action steps, I think, are sometimes the missing piece of data when we hear write out your goals. I think it can make it tangible in the day.
Right. I'm just messaging back here. Okay, so now you start to give me, you said that you do the micro goal steps. So what other things have you found to be really effective? Because you're a very focused guy. You're very organized, and I know you're disciplined in sort of what you do, how you get your day going. So talk to me about some of the things you do there. Successful.
Absolutely. So 2 things come to mind. Hal Elrod, in his book, Miracle Morning, super great, actionable book, kind of cheesy, but still worth reading for anybody in the ILMD community, has this idea that the first hour of your day should almost be sacred space, and you should spend it reading, journaling, exercise, writing out goals. If you're religious or stuff, doing scriptures or meditation or prayer, but basically you really are intelligent with that first hour of the day. And that's something I learned 12 years ago in Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins, and he called it an hour of power. Same idea. So there's a saying that the first hour of the day is like a rudder. So as the first hour goes, so does the rest of the day. And I really try hard, probably with 80, 90% effectiveness, of making sure that my first hour of the day from 6 to 7 is done doing all those different things, including goals. And when I do that, I have a much better day, a much better week. I'm even a nicer husband or spouse or friend. I just am in a better headspace. And then the breakthrough I had a couple years ago was that I would do that Monday to Friday, but Saturday to Sunday was my takeoff days. Those were days I could just, and I realized that made as much sense as brushing your teeth Monday to Friday. Yeah. Like, I'm going to be a good husband Monday to Friday, but I'm going to take off Saturday to Sunday, right? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So when I started trying my best to incorporate that 7 days, I mean, I go on vacation. I just got back from an incredible mortgage conference. Shout out to my Ziva peeps. And I didn't do it those days because I was up late and I was up early and stuff. But with 80 to 90%, starting that day with a power hour, including your goals, I think is huge. The second thing I did, and funny story here, is my 2-part goals is what I talked to you about. It's also, I will write out a list of goals at the beginning of January. So I'm in my home office, I'm looking at the sheet I have. And so I have 7 goals here, each with sub-goals underneath them, covering all parts of your being, your emotional, your spiritual, your physical, your career. And so I will put those around my house. So those are in my bathroom. Those are where I shave near the mirror. Those are in my home office. Those are in my car. In strategic but personal places, I pass by those goals 20 or 30 times a day. And I had a buddy who came to my house and saw them, and he's like, why do you put those up? I know you're big on goals. Why do you need to see them? Why does seeing them for 1 or 2 seconds make a difference? And I said, I'm so certain it makes a difference seeing them for 1 or 2 seconds. And the marketing industry proves that every day. We drive by billboards where people spend $10,000 a year to have an image that you see for 1 or 2 seconds. So if that's valuable, then I'm certain it's valuable for us too. So my goals are written in different places in the house, so I see them multiple times a day. I actually had a funny story where I took them down. 6 months ago, we had a cleaner who cleans our house, and I knew her. And our industry is funny because of the incredible income that you can make, and a lot of our friends think we make a lot less or sometimes a lot more. And I was bashful that mine had my income on there and my net worth on there. So I actually took down my goals because I was worried that while she was cleaning, she'd see them and it'd be all weird. And then I realized, man, if I'm not committed enough to these goals that I'm worried about what Kate, the house cleaner, is going to see, then I need to give my head a shake. So I put them back up, and Kate probably thinks I'm crazy, but the goals are everywhere in those strategic spots.
Right. That's really, really good. That's like what Monica was talking about, how she puts them as well. She keeps them written so that she can see them all the time. And okay, you write them down daily. And so any other advice you'd give to somebody who, tell me about a goal that you set that you achieved faster than you expected. I always like to know, I like success stories, just, and then I'll ask about a failed goal maybe. So.
Sure. So I would say that 2014 was a breakout year for me in my mortgage career. And I think what made a difference is returning to those action steps and also changing it from an outcome goal to a habit goal. So, I mean, there's, I think his name's BJ Fogg, and he talks about habits, and he's way more educated than us mortgage brokers, but he talks about outcome goals versus habit goals. So an outcome goal is, I want to weigh 185 pounds. A habit goal is, I don't eat sugars, I stop my alcohol intake at 3 drinks, and I exercise for 30 minutes a day, whatever. So when I started making my mortgage career about habit goals, rather than I want to fund 100 deals, I made it about how many appointments I had, how many sales calls I would make, how many pre-approvals I would touch base with. I started doing that in late 2014, and that caused my mortgage volume to triple. My deals to basically go from about 36 to 110, and that was easy as soon as I added the action.
You're not saying 110 million. You're saying units.
No, units. That was the change. But that was easy as soon as I made it about my daily actions and less about some pie in the sky number for December 31st.
Well, you can control the action. The one thing you can't control is the result. So if your action is X number of phone calls and you set a goal for those and you do them, you will get the results. It's no different than
exactly.
I'm going to run every day for 5 kilometers. You know what? In a year, you're going to be a lot better runner than you are right now. And so, and I love that idea of setting them like, And I know your whole background in your business, and you've done fantastic and continue to do fantastic with it. So, okay, keep going, brother. Okay. What's one that you,
a hard one?
Yeah. A hard one that you found, man, this one was actually more challenging than I thought.
So I'm convinced that for me and maybe for others, relationship goals are trickier. Because I've learned over the last 10 years of when I set goals to make them as quantifiable as possible. Even if you sound like a total cyborg weirdo, when you're talking about how you want to grow in your relationship with your wife or grow in your relationship with your kids, that's on my goals. Like I have one on my list right now. And I used very emotional, intangible, unquantifiable words for so many years to sort of encapsulate where I wanted to be with my wife or my kids. And it made no difference. Mm-hmm. When you talk about like, I love my wife even more in 2016 than I did in 2015, well, what's that look like? I'm committed to my kids and their development. What's that look like? So I find relationship goals are trickier. Yeah. But, and you look like a weirdo. I mean, I'll share it with you when we get to it, but you look like a weirdo when you write down a relationship goal in kind of a scientific and quantifiable way. Like I increased this by 50% or I double this, but
marriage satisfaction is up 10%. That's like what?
Yeah, based on what the husband says, not the wife. But
yeah, it's always a different number. Yeah, it's always a different number.
So those are trickier. Relationship goals, I think, are trickier, but I think for so many of us, they're actually what needs to be at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially since in this business, easy to be seduced just by, going out making money and doing the business. And so I love that you have to have family goals and make them active, even like you said, make them habits so that you can actually, instead of just something like we're going to have a better relationship, because who knows what that means.
Absolutely.
Okay. So can you share a couple of your current goals?
Sure. So the one I was talking about is, it's kind of personal, only for ILMB, only for you, Scotty. So number 4.
So like, it's just like you, me, and like, I don't know, whoever else is on the internet.
Yeah, this isn't going on the internet, is it? So my number 4 on my list is I improve as a husband and father in 2018 by doubling the free time I spend with my wife and kids on the evenings and weekends. And
cool.
So, like I said, that doesn't sound very romantic. That's not very notebook of me, but that's a way that I can quantifiably look on a Sunday night. Yeah, I know how much time I normally spend with them. How can I double that? So.
Okay, that's awesome. And it's like, if anybody has any questions they want to chat with us about, we'd love to hear from you. Apparently the chat function is broken on Zoom, so I don't know what we did to it, but the Q&A thing works. So if you have something that you want to talk about, and Monica, so I'd want to come back to you. So tell me, like, what are your thoughts on the stuff that Steve was sharing?
Yeah, it all resonates with me. I would agree with him that outcome-based goals are not as powerful as breaking it down into the things that you need to do to get to that outcome. And another thing I agree with is putting some feelings with those goals. I know it sounds all woo-woo and emotional, but when you say this would make me happy, or like when I wanted those parents to love me, I didn't just say good relationships with parents. I went, I want the parents to love me, right? Like I want to be happy at the end of this transaction. So adding some of how you're going to feel into there, I think sort of gives you a more clear vision. And the fact that that it just becomes effortless after a while. Doing goals at the beginning was hard. It was work, and I had to focus on it. Now I don't even think about it. I get up in the morning and I go do my day, and I look the next day and I go, oh, that one's done. Like it's so completely effortless once it's a habit.
For me, I know, and Steve, you know me for a long time, how my ADD is like my nemesis, right? It's like, oh, look at this shiny object. And so the having consistently, for me, I rewrite my goals every day. I have my top 10. I write down my top 3 things that I'm grateful for. So before I even get out of bed, I think, what's 3 things I'm grateful for? I try to prime myself for the day. And then when I get to work, I come in early and I do my 10 goals and write them down. And I use the positive, present, personal. And I have been more focused in the last, probably, I don't know if you've said this to me before, but you've seen me more focused in the last 6 months than you have probably in the last 6 years. But it comes down to for me, keeping it top of mind. And so if you struggle with focus, which a lot of us do, then I think this is a great exercise. Is there anything else that you want to add, Monica or Steve, before we're done? Maybe Monica first, then Steve.
Sorry, no, just the gratitude thing too. That's something else that's on my list every day, is just trying to make a list of everything that worked out that day that I'm grateful for. And it does. I'm a little bit, I'm like, oh, squirrel, right? I'm a lot like that too. And it does, it keeps your focus and it keeps you on the bright side of things. So you don't get bogged down in the negative.
It looks like we lost Steve, so he's gone.
Sorry, Steve.
The live format is going to take a little bit of work. I'm not going to lie. We'll get it figured out. I can't actually. I'm trying to zoom in on your video. I can't do it right now, Monica. So I apologize. It's for some reason. So anyways, we'll get the bugs worked out. So I really appreciate you and Steve taking the time to share with the I Love Mortgage Brokering audience about goal setting. I think that if we're in the business or wherever you're at, you should set goals and don't make them just work goals. Work goals are great, but have some family goals, have some relationship goals, some health goals, and review them. Like keep them top of mind. Like you guys either put them on the wall, write them down daily, or do both. And I think that you're going to have a much better year. So just thank you so much, Monica, for your time and for being willing to share. And I really appreciate you, and keep crushing it. And let me know how it goes with those Toastmaster events that you're doing.
Thanks for kicking my butt and telling me to put that on my board. And thanks for having me. And it's been really great. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Thanks everybody for checking this out.
Bye-bye.